The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, says the dissolution of local governments by state governors amounts to treason, as it is clearly an act that is in breach of the July 11, 2024 Supreme Court judgment which grants financial autonomy to local governments. Fagbemi, who was represented, disclosed this at an NBA event in Abuja. Arise correspondent Godfrey Eshemoge has details.
It is the State of the Nation discourse by the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, an event that's focused on strengthening local government administration in the country. Since the July 11 judgment of the Supreme Court that granted financial autonomy to local government councils, there have been incidents that appear in clear breach of the Apex Court judgment. Edo and Osun are clear cases in point, apart from other state governments that have moved their state assemblies to pass laws that make local governments forgo funds to the state governments. Nigeria's Justice Minister, who is represented here, says this act by state governors is illegal. Others equally express concerns over the current state of affairs.
This act is tantamount to treason and must be treated as such. Now, while it is true that Section 308 of the Constitution grants the governor immunity from prosecution, I wish to be clear that this flagrant disobedience to Supreme Court judgment will have unpleasant consequences for the state as a whole, should it persist. There is a worrisome trend in the legal profession these days, where lawyers, including the state attorneys general, allow their clients and political leaders to dictate the law to them.
I was asked whether the state of affairs in Osun State is a type we would want to see every day, where people are killed over control, not only of the local government, but of their finances.
So long as the governors control the process of how leaders emerge in the local government, even if you give them financial autonomy, they will go back to square one.
What about the lawyers whose humongous bills for election petitions are, to your knowledge, paid by the governor through the office of the Attorney General from the money stolen from the local government account?
During the panel session, the Attorney General, Commissioner for Justice of Lagos State, Lawal Pedro, gave his points to justify a joint state and local government account.
It was because local government councils were not paying primary school teachers salaries. People do not know the genesis of why the state and local government joint account was created and now imputed into the 1999 Constitution. It is to prevent this.
I make bold to say here that the funds accruing to local government is enough to pay worker salary.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria says none of the 774 local government councils has opened an account to which funds will be allocated directly.
All Algon needs to do is to encourage its members to approach the central banks located in the various state capitals. We're making progress. Can quote me that if you approach central bank within 48 hours, your problems will be solved.
A cross-section of the speakers at this event say financial autonomy granted to local government councils is a half measure, insisting that full administrative autonomy will be required to make the impact fully felt at the grassroots. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
Thanks for that report, Godfrey. Professor Keeler, this morning, the local government in view, in focus, and of course this conversation we've been having around local government autonomy, the ruling by the Supreme Court from last year, 2024, adherence by state governors, why is it not happening? And I'm glad that a robust conversation was had with a number of attorneys general in present there. So your thoughts first, and then I'll head to Abuja, where Rufai is currently, for his own analysis.
Well, I think, in the midst of a lot of chaos, I like to point out the clarity of the Attorney General of the Federation. This statement, you can't mix it up, you can't misinterpret it, regardless of his intention or why he's doing it or what anybody must say. And allow me to say, because I've criticized the Attorney General publicly on other occasions, to say, good on him for being so clear on this situation. Why are we not having the right progress for the local government? It's simply because some people don't want it to happen, simply because there are people who benefit from the chaos, from the financial misappropriation, from the abuse of power of keeping the local government under, from people who cannot stand the scrutiny and who do not believe in a bottom-up approach, or what's that thing called, grassroots approach, as we say normally in Nigeria. And I do think it is important that we, the people and lovers of Constitution and people who are truly committed to progress, push for this autonomy in the right way, though, in the right way, respecting all legal terms. Because what it really means is that with the autonomy, the intention, the noble intention, is to bring back governance to the nearest people. I would like to know who is in charge of my road, of my schools, of my hospitals, in my locality, wherever I reside in the country. And I would like an idea where the office in charge of the managing affairs of our daily life is a stone throw from where we live. Perhaps if we do that, it will even ease the pressure from the center and this idea of everybody running to one simple focal point. I think it's a good thing. I think we need to push for it. And it is not enough to have noble intentions. I think we also need to identify those who are against what is good for us.
All right, identify those who are against what is good for us. Rufai, your take on this story.
Ayo, this is power play at its finest. And I'm going to set some strong terms this morning. The Attorney General can say all he wants to say as regards the full autonomy of local government, which we believe in, but it's not reality on ground. You can see what happened in Rivers as regards local government. Now it's also happening in Osun. Over the years, the governors of respective states have pocketed the local government, take their revenue, take all that belongs to them, under the guise of we will chaperone them. And what is happening today is that a lot of people perceive it as a fight between the APC that is at the national government and the PDP for the soul of who will control the local governments. The bone of contention here is a judgment, a Court of Appeal judgment, that they said the CTC was revealed or released on Friday. Since then, the APC has said that it favors them. Then they've gone ahead to send their sacked local government chairman to go take over the local government, and it has caused mayhem, leading to the death of many people. The truth is, have we gotten clarity on that judgment? If you have a contentious judgment, who should give the clear interpretation? We had a guest over this matter in the course of this week that said both parties should seek clear interpretation. Another question I would like to ask, if it was a PDP government in the center, will it be so easy for those sacked APC personnel to say they are going to take over the local government? And also for the PDP that has its own paraphernalia and its own thugs to attack and repeal, is that the best way to go? So both parties are complicit in all of this. And that's why the fight is going on. The sensible thing to do in the first place is to go seek clarity on that judgment. Both parties claim they have the CTC. Both parties have claimed the CTC favors them. We don't have clarity on that judgment. I cannot even speak to judgment because I've not seen the CTC. Maybe the media at large should even start by, when we get the CTC, get analysts and probably push it over to the court to be able to interpret the CTC for us so that we know what's going on in the first place. Governor Adeleke is saying all sorts at this time. The IG is not cooperating, the allegations of assassination attacks and all of this power play at its finest. We want the autonomy of the local government, but it's not happening in practical terms. So the Attorney General can say whatever he wants to say. What he's saying is not practical. Both of them are fighting for the souls of the local government in Osun State. But at least it has to start with that judgment. We need to know a clear interpretation of that judgment in the first place before we can move on in this matter. And we need to call on everybody in Osun, allow cool heads prevail. We saw the other day, there was a video making the rounds, unverified though, I should put that, about some military detachment getting into Osun and all of that. It could be anything. It could be, I've not been able to independently verify that. But we must have calm heads in Osun leading up to Saturday. And we must be able to get a clear interpretation to this judgment. I think that's what's on ground here.
All right. Okay, so the NBA organized a State of Nation discourse where Lateef Fagbemi, the Attorney General of the Federation, was the keynote speaker. He was represented, as we saw in that report, by Godfrey. But in attendance and also acting as panelists were other attorneys general from different states in the Federation. And I think it was time for them to make clear and have the conversation around the LG autonomy as prescribed or as ruled by the Supreme Court last year. Since that ruling, despite it being a landmark for a final actualization of autonomy for local government, which is the third tier of government in the federal system that Nigeria operates, it was an opportunity for them to have that frank conversation around the role that the law plays in individual states and how these law gatekeepers, if I could put it that way, interpreters, advisors to their principals, which is the governor, can ensure that this works. I think some things to highlight is the fact that he stated it very clearly that it is it's an act, tantamount to treason for the governors to not adhere or obey the ruling of the Supreme Court. He did acknowledge the fact that they have immunity, but it would spell very badly for the state as a whole if they continue to toe this line of ignoring or trying to sidestep that ruling by the state governor, by the Supreme Court. The second thing he did, which I thought was very important, was to call out the attorneys general themselves, saying that they were also complicit because as opposed to them advising in their capacity as the legal specialists, if I put it that way, in the states, they allowed the governor do the reverse, and they just watched as law and order is broken down in individual states, and laws like this or rulings like this by the Supreme Court is disobeyed. And so it was an opportunity for them to speak. But I think a very key message here as well is this. Beyond the governors not adhering to the ruling of the Supreme Court, we've seen many instances. Some have said, they want to have a transition process. Others have said, the reason why they're doing this is because the local governments do not have capacity yet. I think in one state, they said, the local governments don't have a bank account yet. They want to verify, so they're helping them. All machinations to sidestep that ruling by the local government so that the state governors continue to have that control on the local government through control over the finances. So the first thing that must be highlighted is how the local government chairman emerged in the first place. You can put a law in place, you can have a ruling in place, but if the local government chairmen are beholden to the governors themselves, even though they are independent, they will continue to go and pay obeisance to the state governors, which we've seen in many places, where we've seen, the state governors, we're going to hold elections, and then they handpick and selects the people who lead this local government. And at the end of the day, it's he who pays the piper that dictates the tune. So we need to have that clear, dissemination of powers through credible elections. Let the local government elections be fair and credible, and let the people themselves choose, because this is the closest government to the people. But a number of things have been highlighted, and I hope that this will be a wake-up call to the state governors. We need to practice true federalism in Nigeria, that the people may benefit optimally from this system of government.